All right, gang. Walk you through a little bit of what we had going on the bottom of the ocean back in late June. So jumping in with my dive buddy, my brother, and starting on our descent line. We actually set a separate descent line off of the boat just to keep it easy for the boat captain. If he needs to drift around the wreck at all, he can, and still has a good visual at the surface for where we're down. Allows us also to be able to go up and down on the ascent line and know that the boat's not drifted or the anchor hasn't been reset. So we're descending down to about 70 feet here, and you can start to see some good AJs, amberjacks, in the water column coming up to meet us. And as we get closer, you can see the back side of that tugboat start to appear below us. And you probably got about another 40 feet to go before we get down to the bottom. And good descent. Good to see the ship and see the bottom. My brother makes no haste whatsoever and gets his first snapper within seconds of being on the bottom, and goes through the process of just getting it off of our harpoon and getting it onto the stringer you see hanging by his knee. At this time, I'm just going to let him do his thing and do a little exploration on the wreck. It's been since 2004 since I've been down on this wreck. Last time I was here with my wife, and we were actually getting our advanced open water certification at this depth, 76 feet at the back of the boat on the bottom. See some good ship here, and pilot house on top with the engine compartment below that. You'll see the smokestack there on the ground right here in front of you on the bottom right of the screen that came off of the wreck during Hurricane Michael back in a couple years back. The rest of the ship's pretty much well intact and where it was before Michael showed up. I'm getting a little bored and thinking I might take a shot on one of these snapper. However, I know my brother's still in the back working on that fish, and just being at this depth and knowing the wreck well, I really have no desire to mess with the fish just yet until we get back to side by side and hunt together. We got a lot of really neat fish, some grouper coming out inside. Good old Goliath grouper there, top in the water column, kind of hanging out watching us. A lot of pens on the wreck itself, sometimes making it rather challenging to see the wreck, but sure makes for a fun dive. A neat experience watching them move in the water column with all the sounds. Some good red snappers there going back into that wreck. Not the size we were really looking for, but good snappers nonetheless. And I start to see Mark back on the back, and at this point, this is when the trip gets nice and sporty. You can hear him start to call my name and, point out our first bull shark of the day. Actually, second bull shark of the day. We had dove a 60-foot wreck before this one and had a bull shark come up to us right at the very end as we were getting ready to ascend back up to the ship, to our boat, to our surface interval. So at this time, we decided let's sit tight, hang out, get back on the wreck, regroup, and let's just take a look at the area around us. And, keep your eye on the left side of the screen here, and you see bull shark number 2 coming in to greet us. It is rather amazing how you keep your stance and don't swim away. Sometimes take an action in front of them, put our spear guns in front, and they tend to turn away from you. But we're all good, still enjoying our dive. Beautiful wreck, lots of fish. Wanted to hunt a lot more, but also didn't want the desire to be hunted as well. So we saw a lot of grouper on this wreck and opted for some reconnaissance for a future trip when gag grouper season opens up. And they're just checking out where they might be hiding out or where they might be living, and then how we might be able to harvest some good fish off this wreck in future months from now. But always keeping our eyes on what could be right behind us. We thought we were dealing with one bull on this wreck. Careful review of the videos, and then quite frankly, on our ascent back up, we actually saw 4 bull sharks all at the same time hanging with us, as curious about us as we were curious about them and the other fish on the wreck. You just begin to see the pilot house up here where the ship's captain would have steered the tug, but when it was up on top side. Really neat structure. Always keeping our head on the swivel though. That is a good size bull shark. That was probably the moment in our life that my brother and I thought, well, if we're going to get into a fight with a shark, we're going to do it together. And that was as close as we have a desire to get to. Very happy that he turned away and decided that we were not what he was in hunt for. Good sized gag groupers swimming off the wreck. Looking forward to those come September. Still a lot of amberjacks, very curious and hanging out in the water column with us. There's that smokestack you saw earlier. As we're coming around the front side of the wreck, heading back to the back of the boat again, checking out the variety of grouper, snapper that we're seeing. Got plenty of air, but 5 minutes left on my no-deco limit. A testament to what happens when you dive oxygen when your brother dives nitrox. He had a ton of no-deco time left on the bottom. I reverted to hanging up higher in the water column to maintain my time frame I was allowed to dive without having to go through decompression stops. No desire to go through those. Coming on the top of the ship now, this is where that smokestack was. And then coming up to the back of the boat, at the back of the pilot house. And just enjoying the aquarium of all the small fish. Also testing out a new housing here using a case for our iPhone 13 Pro and seeing how well it does or does not take the clarity. Not exactly the clarity I was hoping for. Got some good colors and some of the macro shots are in focus, but just not what I used to seeing when we film with our Sony cameras underwater. But it's a good try nonetheless. So Mark just told me he really wants to shoot one more fish. We haven't seen a shark in a while. I said, okay, let's do it. And then we decided, no, it's just time to call the dive. Let's get back topside, cut our losses, enjoy the fish we did get, and head to another wreck for our last dive of the day. So coming back up, those that don't dive, one of the things we have to be very careful about is our ascent rate going back to the boat on top. Just taking that rate rather slow and allowing the nitrogen to dissolve out of our system and just enjoying some time with the AJs in the water column. This is the moment when we realized we were not dealing with two sharks, that we really truly were dealing with four. At the moment that we finally saw the four sharks and they started figure eight patterns below us and started to come up the water column, I elected to get both my hands on the gun and get good aim. And our water droplet has taken focus away from my two bulls here hanging out, circling around the bottom of our anchor line. But great dive nonetheless. Very enjoyable, and could have shot more fish, but hey, we got to see some big ones. Live to fish another day.